now that the planets are working, I had a brief stream a minute ago, or not a minute ago, it was yesterday. Jinx, what's the matter? Where I did some initial work on multi-biome materials, but I've done a little bit more work. Jinx, you can't stand on my computer, bro. Sorry. Let me put you over there. Oh goodness. Um, so I did do a little bit of just tooling work to make this quick gradient editor as a standalone HTML page because it's easier to do it this way than it is to do it with GIMP. For this, at least. Jinx, stop. My cat is insistent he wants to sit on my computer. Dude, you can't sit on my computer, bro. You can sit anywhere else. He's making this difficult. Jinxie. So I've done a little bit of work on it. You can see some of those results here, but I want to kind of refine more. You can see that we're getting like areas of brown and areas of green. I also have a hue shift running here, which is why it's shifted into this color. So, what does that mean? Well, mostly I think the noise needs some work here. So both of these are using a noise texture. So what I want to do is take my temperature map. We need to isolate what we're working with here. So our temperature map is used to sample from the y-axis of our textures, and our moisture map is used to work between our foliage and our ground colors. But we really need to work on these gradients. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Let's also get some additional lighting here. Okay, so this is my current temperature gradient. And I think it's actually flipped. Either that or my gradients themselves are flipped. So let's get some... This is what we're working on here. So let's get another noise node here. We're going to create a second noise node here. It also needs to be divided by the radius. And let's go ahead and... Okay, so this is -1 to... Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is a problem. We don't need that. Do it just like this. Alright, and let's create some distortion here. Somebody riding a big fart motorcycle outside. Okay. Scalar. We'll call this temp noise distort. And we'll set this to like a 0.1 for now. And then we're gonna add here to domain warp our second layer of noise. And that should give us some more interesting patterns here. let's keep. I would like it to be a more of a gradient here as well. So let's mess with this. This needs to actually be here. Alright, so what if I increase the distortion amount? Probably a bit much. Probably just a little bit too much here. Switch back to our color. And yeah, this is kind of inverted from what we want it to represent, which I guess is fine. Alright, let me think here. Okay. Alright, the distortion is too much, obviously. That looks a lot better. Okay, yeah, I dig that now. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Let me pet this cat some. He's being very demanding. Jinxie, I'm trying to do work, bro. How come you coming in for the forced cuddles when I'm just trying to do some work here? Okay, so let's see here. We got temporal multi. Latitude fall off. I'm trying to move these precisely, but there's a cat kneading on my arm, making my arm move up and down. Come on. Okay, there we go. Let's work on the moisture map now. We're gonna do something similar to what we just did. Clone this noise. Clone this control here. Jinx, I literally can't use the mouse, dude. There we go. And here. Scalar, this would be moisture noise scale. 1. Scalar. Moisture noise distort scale. One divide by this. Change this to be bounded between -1 and 1. Multiply scalar moisture noise distort amount. And we'll have to clean up all these names and stuff later. I'm just trying to get everything kind of working properly. All right, and let's take a look at the moisture map now. Let's increase the noise. Short scale of 1.3. And then where am I applying the height map? Okay, so we need to check this too. All right, yeah, this is broken. Or is it? It's actually not. So our moisture decreases with elevation. So maybe if we make sure fall off raise to 2, and I'll just plug you right in here, and then we'll do 2 here as well, and then plug this right into the base color, save it, see what we got. Maybe temperature is what should vary with elevation, and moisture I don't know what moisture varies with, if not with elevation, though. Could I... Uh, let's try cranking the elevation fall off up a bunch. Okay. That seems reasonable. Let's give that a shot. Hmm. Yeah, there we go. Now we got some nice variants here. So obviously we will have to parameterize all this properly. But it's definitely better. So let's start cleaning these up. These guys can sit up here. They're pretty much done. And foliage. So let's make this. Let's make one that. And actually, we'll just do. We'll just rename it. Shit. I'm gonna have to update the blueprint too. It's fine. And this will be foliage gradient, ground gradient. Ground gradient, foliage gradient. I just made 2 of these for the moment. And then these will have to switch. Okay, we save that. It's going to break. We have to go back to our proceduralization harness over here and change the names. For now, we're not randomizing the gradients. All right, great. We're back in business over here. Really hate the way it looks with the double directional light, but at least we can see the front and the back. All right, so let's do this as well, so that we can know like what's going into our final output. We're going to do a named reroute node. And then right here, we'll do the same. Moisture map. Just makes it easier to kind of see what's going on. All right, Jinx, you got to get up, bro. Give her a noise scale multiplier. And I want to get everything locked in here. Relative elevation. Calculate elevation. Ah, yes. And what it should be is probably this. There we go. Make it just a tiny bit bigger. And then okay, there we go. Put these two in line right here. All right, that looks pretty good. Temperature map. I'm thinking about the temperature and moisture map thing. It almost feels like temperature would be better to be the one that's controlled by the elevation as well as the latitude. And moisture should just be random. Okay. And gradients. Okay. And then thinking about the temperature thing. Is there a good way to connect a text coordinate variable to the height and width of the material? So I'm not sure what you mean by height and width of the material. Do you mean the object that it's on, or do you mean the like texture itself? Or you'll have to elaborate a little bit. Yeah. So you want like the yeah, like the wall itself, you're saying. You want the like so you want a brick wall where it could be width 1 or width 2, and no matter what, the texture coordinate will adjust the so that it stays like proportional. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I don't know offhand off the top of my head exactly how you would do it, but you could probably do something similar to what I'm doing here. So inside here, you have access to a bunch of values. You have like radius, you have like object radius, but you also have like object scale. I think that's a local value, or maybe local object local bounds. Um, so using these values, you should be able to say like, say your blueprint for your brick wall component always scales it locally on the x-axis to make the wall wider, right? And you just rotate it depending on where you want it to fit. Then you could conceivably use your scale x here to figure out like how you need to tile your texture coordinate. I don't know like off the top of my head how you would do that, but I know that it would be some factor relative to the scale of the object itself. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, let me find it because I actually have a pretty good example of something I'm doing similarly here. Okay, yeah, here you go. So like right here, I'm getting the absolute world position of the object on the XYZ axis and subtracting the actor position so that I can get the local Z axis, but scaled into world coordinates. That means that it'll be centered on 0 at the center of the object, right? So you would have positive z values anything higher in elevation than the center of the thing, and negative z values anything lower than the elevation. So then I take the absolute value of that and divide it by the radius of the object right here, and we can actually envision, and then I'm taking it to a power, but we can envision that if I plug that in up here, and then we go back out to the planet, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I use this as a part of the temperature gradient. And so no matter what size this object is, this gradient will always be consistent to the object, right? It's not just statically defined. It varies based on the scale of the object. And I imagine you could do something similar with like a brick texture to determine like tiling. I don't offhand know exactly what you would do there, but I'm pretty sure it would be something like that. So I have two maps here. I have a temperature map and I have a moisture map. And right now, my moisture map is taking elevation into account, and my temperature map is taking latitude into account. But I'm not 100% convinced that the moisture map shouldn't just be random and that the temperature should take in both elevation and latitude. Uh, mm, this is also pretty messy. Thinking. I guess the issue would be I'm worried about like just there being a mountain and it going into fall colors even though it's in like the middle of a desert. Mm. I also want a simpler way to control all this too. So like right so like right now what I'm doing is I'm feeding in two gradients. One is a foliage color gradient and the other is a ground color gradient. And the moisture map controls the blend between the foliage and the ground color gradients. And then the temperature map controls the y-axis sampling of the gradients, which I make using this little HTML page I threw together to basically, hang on, close, to basically generate these gradients with a GUI and then export to PNG and blur them up in GIMP. I just do a vertical Gaussian blur on them. And so, like, as you sample. Oh, I know why my temperature's flipped around. I think I flipped the order that these should like be stacked in. It should actually be winter on top, summer on the bottom, or something like that. And I'm doing that to try and get like some nice variance because like now that we have this like mesh planet that you could go down to the surface of, I want to be able to basically create like a splat map of ground versus foliage, and then sometime in the near future, I'm going to start looking into the PCG tools to populate foliage based on vertex color. So, like, sample the vertexes, populate foliage based on the vertex color, and like some random factor. Let's find a slightly less trippy coloration scheme here. Okay. Uh, we got our one little peak here. Pretty cool. Well, no, not exactly. We're going a little simpler than trying to do like some form of a like airstream calculation. We're just using some simple noise blends to do them with some logical stuff like I just showed you the gradient um, where the temperature decreases near the poles, right? So I can multiply that by a noise value. You get some internal variance, but also near the poles, it will be more intense. So you get you sample higher on the y-axis of our gradients, which should push it into the more like colder temperature colors, right? And then as far as the moisture goes, right now, what I'm doing is I have a little selector function that is basically saying moisture is low at the coasts and at the peaks, and then you have more moisture like in the band in between those, right? And then that's multiplied by a noise value. But I'm not doing like sim stuff, right? And none of this is based on sim stuff. The planet's not. I would like to look into that at one point, like how do I simulate plate tectonics, like that kind of stuff. But all of this is just kind of mimicking it at this point. So let's fiddle with these control settings a bit. Kind of surprised that that didn't have more of an effect. That worries me a bit because it means that my temperature map might not be having the effect that I think it is. Hmm. And it also could be that I just need more variance in my gradients as well. All right, so three's enough to get a little bit of polar activity. There, I mean, it's actually not too bad. And like we can get kind of the desert and forest variance with the noise. It's just not following some simulated values. It's just random. It's almost like a crater right here. And I don't even have the crater noise incorporated. Hmm. Let's see. Um. The idea here is that each planet would be a combination, or each biome would be a combination of two gradients, and then use like PCG to basically populate foliage and shit based on the colors that you're sampling from. Well, this needs to be clamped, obviously. Am I not clamping this for real? Not. Okay. That's an easy improvement. Yep. Now, if I do like 100 here, it shouldn't go insane. It should just be the. So this would be like basically the full um, foliage gradient. And if I set this to 0, it should be the full ground gradient. And then, like, basically, we get a blend of the two when we increase this number a bit. It's not too bad. That's not so bad. We can increase the distortion to kind of get some interesting patterns out of it. And then likewise, we can distort the temperature noise as well, but it doesn't seem to make as big of a difference. Got to figure out. Okay, now it's having a large impact. I mean, that's kind of cool, actually. Let's see. Let's see here. This is probably a little too much. And also this. All right. I mean, it's actually pretty close, I think. Let's check some high res planets. I'll go ahead and load it in with higher detail. It just takes a minute. Oh no, don't break on me. There it goes. Okay, great. It didn't explode. Not yet, anyway. It's not too bad. Let's do like four here and then find some interesting planets. Also, normally you would be switching out um, these gradients randomly, but we're only using two right now because I've only made two so far. And we do have a hue shift on it. So you do get stuff like this, which actually looks pretty fucking cool, I think. I wish. I wonder if I could modify my like height sampling based on noise as well, like bias it, but give some randomness to it. Cause like it's cool that we can get these white mountain peaks, but it wouldn't be this precise, right? So that's our x-axis sample value. So this value right here. So if I created just a noise, well, it does give some variance, but not exactly what we wanted. But that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I could generate noise from this because I think we can multiply this by like a zero point zero 0.01 and then add it since it's between -1 and 1 to this and maybe do it like that. Hmm. It's not exactly what I wanted. Maybe sample from just the XY. Damn it. I guess we could just sample the XYZ, maybe. This is closer. Our noise resolution is way too fucking high. Which makes sense because we need to multiply this by a very small number. We'll try 1 for now and then divide it by the radius. Let's try that. Increase the resolution. It's hard to tell if it's working. 10. This should also happen. Let's try that. It's hard to tell. I think the noise is just too low res right now. I mean, from a distance, it looks cool. But we would want it to apply it in an individual peak level, so it's going to have to be pretty high frequency. Let's try 10 times. There we go. All right. Hell yeah. Oh my god. Well, if it's going to have this much of an impact on the surface appearance, I'm going to have to, it's cool, but it's going to have to be more, like, I'm going to have to put a little bit more effort into this noise pattern. We can distort it. Reduce it a smidge by half. It still gets us some nice variance here. I just have to figure out what to do about all this. Because I don't want just this, like, ubiquitous noise texture over the whole planet. Um, I mean, I could just try. I'm just curious to see what distortion's gonna do for this. Planet radius, multiply the absolute world position. Let's try 100. Divide it. Make some noise. Multiply by like zero point 0.1 maybe. And then add it here. Create some additional distortion. Let's see how that looks. Let's change our original noise here to Perlin instead of simplex. That might be okay. Yeah, I don't hate that. What if I crank the distortion all the way up? Yeah, maybe a bit much there. Flip them. Hmm. Requires to be fucked with more, probably. This is interesting as well. I mean, that's pretty cool that you could do that. I don't know how useful it is. It is problematic that's producing this effect on the shoreline. I suppose I could add like a branch in the logic. It's kind of cool, but it's also not exactly what I wanted to be doing. To only do this if it's over like zero point 0.5 elevation or something. Hmm. 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 Let's find some different planets. And then more traditional green and blue. Gimbal locked. Uh. I'm gonna have to come up with a good way to do this vertical noise shtick here. Yeah, we're gonna need some kind of. Here's what we do. I got it. Um, we produce this noise variant and this noise variant, and we do a lerp based on this between this and this go. So it's either going to be on the lowlands or the highlands. We should be able to tell immediately. It's like I lost it from the lowlands. So it should apply more to the mountaintops, hopefully. Yep, then smooth step. Ideally, I would be able to preserve my coastlines. All right, we need some mountain peaks. I think 26 might have had it one, the one that we were looking at, or not. Perhaps not. We could also do, okay, we can force it with this. There we go. All right, our coastlines are clean. What about our mountaintops? Also clean. Shit. Okay. Well, this is going to require some trial and error. I'm going to probably call it here. I got some stuff I need to do. But I'll keep fiddling with this. And hopefully I'll come up with an answer that looks good. So, yeah. Later. See ya.